Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening. I'm Russ Riesinger. Janelle has a night off. We want to welcome our viewers tuning in tonight in western Montana on KPAX and KAJ. Well, it's something you might not be surprised to see in the Montana wild, but another sighting of a mountain lion right in the middle of Billings is prompting a warning. This is some new video from the chancellor of MSU Billings, whose surveillance cameras captured a mountain lion 2 weeks ago in the same area where one was spotted again this morning, not far from campus. Now, though the animal's been spotted numerous times, it doesn't necessarily mean Fish and Wildlife and Parks is tracking its every move. They say those mountain lions can travel miles a day, meaning there's no way of knowing where it will end up. Q2's Andrea Lutz has more.
At the corner of Virginia Lane and Silver Lane, early Thursday morning, another reported sighting of a mountain lion. This coming after the last 2 weeks have been filled with Billings residents also reporting that they've seen one too.
And it seems the reported sightings keep coming.
And everybody keeps saying they see it. But it was like 8:45 this morning, supposedly it was. They say right here, but I want to say it was back there.
And has those living on Silver Lane taking precaution.
I just think people need to be vigilant, be aware, especially people with children and animals.
They're always on the block.
Brooke Murphy usually walks to his job at the hospital.
Yeah, I usually just walk right through MSU Billings campus, but it was about 10 days ago or so that I heard that mountain lion was in the area. So then, since then, I've been kind of driving around and just not going to take a chance right now.
And it was just about that time MSUB Chancellor Dan Edelman captured video of the mountain lion on surveillance cameras from his driveway.
Just the fact that somebody started seeing them is not surprising.
Mountain lions in town happen from time to time, according to Bob Gibson.
Wild turkeys walking up and down the middle of Rimrock Road. There are mule deer and white-tailed deer all over in there.
And on Silver Lane, there's turkeys too. And that has those living on this street thinking that's a good reason why a mountain lion might keep hanging around here.
Yeah, the canary in the mine shaft. That's a, yeah. I've just keep an eye on them, and I'm like, okay, they're still around. So maybe the mountain lion moved on.
In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Well, unless the mountain lion destroys something, FWP says the plan for now is to leave it alone. However, if they do find it, Bob Gibson tells us they will euthanize that animal. He says, unlike bears, there's no way to relocate a big cat. New details after a man and woman are found dead following a high-speed chase in the Flathead Valley. Both those victims had gunshot wounds, but officers never fired their weapons. Last night, a Kalispell police officer tried to stop a vehicle with Oregon plates on Highway 93 North. That vehicle was eventually stopped with spike strips and slowly exited the road. Authorities told the suspects to get out of the vehicle, but neither person moved. That's when officers discovered the pair dead of gunshot wounds. An investigation is ongoing. There are no short-term risks at a state Superfund site in Billings. The EPA and the DEQ met with the public tonight for input on what to do long-term. Q2's David J. joins us now after talking with experts from both agencies. David?
Russ, it's called the Billings PCE Groundwater State Superfund site. Recent tests show lower levels, but the agencies want to make sure it is safe long-term over the next 25 years. More than 80 came out to hear from the EPA and the DEQ about the results from the tests, those most recently from 2016 to 2018. In 2008, the EPA cleaned up an area at 715 Central Avenue that was the main source of PCE and TCE, chemicals that were once used in dry cleaning. The recent investigation also shows 3 more smaller sources with smaller amounts of chemicals, and the main concern is vapor seeping into buildings.
The soil contamination is at the source areas and it's at depth that no one's contacting the groundwater, no one's drinking the groundwater. EPA emergency removal focused on eliminating immediate health risks. That was successful.
There appears to be still some source around the Big Sky Linen, but it did result in lower concentrations of PCE in the groundwater and a reduction that resulted in fewer vapors getting into people's homes of this contaminant.
It's possible that the Billings site to have that put on the EPA's national priorities list for Superfund sites, have more EPA emergency removal, use state money, or they say a combination of all those options. Russ?
Thank you, David. Let's turn to weather now. Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire joining us. And Bob, things have really started to dry out in parts of the state.
You know, it's been a very wet spring, very wet summer so far, but now that is over with. And let me show you what's happening right now. A Doppler radar and satellite imagery shows not a drop of rain anywhere in Montana or northern Wyoming. So today's the day that the U.S. Drought Monitor came out, so we thought we'd share that with you. And as you can see, remember California, they had a wet winter as well, so they actually got rid of their drought for the first time in like 5 or 6 years. And now they're just now in Southern California, it's starting to dry up a little bit. They have abnormally dry conditions there. Meanwhile, up in the Pacific Northwest, look at this. Who would think they'd have severe drought in the Seattle and Puget Sound area and the Olympic Peninsula, but that's what they have. The rest of Washington also has basically a moderate drought. And in northwestern Montana, we have moderate drought there, but also we have unusually dry conditions in western Montana tonight from basically Kalispell all the way down towards Dillon area. But everyone else east of the divide, generally wet conditions, drought not an issue at this point in time. That's some good news for those folks. We'll have the rest of your forecast and the weekend weather in a few more minutes.
All right, thank you, Bob. Attorney General William Barr has ordered the first federal executions in 16 years. He directed the head of the Bureau of Prisons to execute 5 death row inmates, all convicted child killers. The federal government reinstated capital punishment in 1988, but only 3 inmates have been executed since then. The last one was back in 2003. As of the end of last year, there were 62 federal prisoners awaiting execution. Currently, there are no Montanans serving federal death penalty sentences. There are 2 people currently on death row at the state prison in Montana. Those men are Ronald Smith, a Canadian man convicted of killing 2 men in Glacier National Park in 1982. The other, William Gallahan, was given the death penalty for murdering 5 other inmates during the 1991 prison riot. Now, Montana has not put a prisoner to death since 2006. This federal reinstatement of the death penalty will not affect state cases, though. Well, state action this week to remove 27 children from a private treatment ranch in northwest Montana came just 3 weeks after a new state law took effect on how these centers are regulated. As MTN's Mike Dennison reports, that law played a role in the decisive action taken by state officials against the Ranch for Kids in Rexford.
State and local law enforcement and other officials showed up at the Ranch for Kids on Tuesday morning with a court order to remove the kids and an emergency suspension of the organization's license. The latter action is by the State Department of Public Health and Human Services, which, thanks to a new law, now regulates 14 of these private facilities known as outdoor treatment programs for troubled youths. DPHHS official Erica Johnston also says publicity about the new law played a role in the investigation and action at the ranch.
I would actually credit the public awareness that was created during the legislative session with creating the atmosphere that allowed witnesses to come forward and present corroborating investigative responses that allowed us to act quickly.
The new law took regulation away from a state board, whose members included owners of some of the facilities. A push for the new law came after an investigative series by the Missoulian newspaper outlining complaints against the facilities with rare action by the regulating board. Ranch for Kids director Rick Sutley didn't respond to a request for comment, but has said he plans to contest the suspension of the ranch's license. State and local law enforcement also is conducting a criminal investigation of abuse allegations at the ranch that go back for years. State Justice Department officials helped with the removal of the kids and are continuing to work on what one top official described as a difficult case.
This is the type of a case where we probably don't have physical evidence. This is the part where we have witnesses, we have memories of children and the things that they experienced, and we have a lot of interviews to do.
The state cited allegations of kids being hit and kicked, spit on by the staff, and subjected to psychological abuse and excessive discipline. Local prosecutors will decide any charges, and Lockerbie says that could take some time. As for the children, state officials say they're working with a child psychiatrist and others to ensure their safety and well-being.
Some children who have gone home with their parents already. There are some children who remain in Montana, and we really took a careful approach to ensuring that the care moving forward for these children, if they're still in our custody, is trauma-informed and safe.
Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Well, the state health department says it's also preparing new inspection and licensing rules for these facilities now under its oversight. For many, the first day of school is something to look forward to. New school clothes, new school supplies, but this is also a challenging time for some families due to money constraints. Verizon Cellular Plus stores in the area doing their part to help relieve some of that burden and give back. On Saturday, July 27th, all Montana and Wyoming Cellular Plus stores will be giving away backpacks filled with school supplies. Backpacks can be picked up Saturday from 10 until noon.
That's actually probably one of the most exciting things we're looking forward to, is just having the kids come in and smile and get to pick out what color they want and walking out with their parents ready to start school.
And although anyone is eligible for those backpacks, Cellular Plus says that they're asking that the child be in attendance. Donations are still being accepted at any of the Cellular Plus locations up until the end of that event on Saturday. All right, still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news, an investigation finds children as young as 8 years old were targeted by the vaping company Juul. We're going to have details on that ahead. And coming up in sports, Scott is going to fill us in on the men's State Am in Great Falls.
You're watching MTN News with Janelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.